Di na malitan ang pagtagal, pag-abi-abi na tiginuod gayon ay pagkanindot sumiyon ang awit sa pasalamat. Daghang salamat, daghang salamat, salamat gayon ang Ginoo na lang ang magpatos kaninyo sa kaligtasan, kamo panalanginan. Pagkanindot sa gawin, di na malitan ang pagtagad, pag-abi-abi, kahit itinod gayon ay pagkanindot sumiyon ang awit sa pasalamat. Daghang salamat, daghang salamat, salamat gayon. Daghang salamat, daghang salamat, salamat gayon.
Thank you, thank you.
God is generous. The horrifying picture of the destruction of lives and properties of Hurricane Katrina is very familiar to me. In 1990 I personally experienced one of the powerful typhoon that hit the island where I lived. It was Super Typhoon Ruping, which was responsible for 748 deaths. The ferocious winds rampaged the islands, destroying and almost leveling all the houses. I could still remember how the wind disintegrates our house right before my eyes. The typhoon destroyed almost all the farmers' plantation fields and destroying many properties. The powerful wind smashed and sinks hundreds of fishing boats and destroying many factories, and one of these is the company where I worked. Super Typhoon Ruping was one of my frightening experiences ever since. For 1 month we don't have electricity, we have no water, and the food was limited. We also have no work because the company was flooded and most of the machines were inoperable. Then we learned that the company owners who lived in United States were so worried about their business. They then decided to send their top officials from Timex main headquarters in Connecticut to the Philippines to see themselves of the destruction. They surveyed the company and the houses of its employees, and moved by what they saw, the owners decided to give enough amount to all its workers. The money was good enough to start reconstructing our shattered lives. Everyone was given an equal amount, but then many started to complain to our manager, and I was one of them. We protested because even the newly hired employees were given the same amount. Many of us, especially those who were in the company for many years, could not believe they received the same. There were arguments, and finally our manager called a meeting and said to everybody, "This is not about honest days' work and honest days' pay. The money given to everyone was given out of love. This is not a question of what is fair, but about the generosity of the owners," and everybody was silent and ashamed of what we have done. Many times we too can be compared to these workers who complained about the generosity of the owners. Like the first workers in the gospel, sometimes we complained about the injustice and unequal treatment. We question the generosity of the owner. Each one of us, in one way or another, is guilty of accusing others of being generous. When we are on the disadvantage, we complain. When someone was given better opportunity, we are jealous, and many times we are in competitions with one another. How fit are we in the parable? Many times we think and picture God, the owner of the vineyard, in our own ordinary way of looking things. Many times we miss the whole point of the story. The gospel is not about equal rights, but about the generosity of God. The gospel shows to us an image of a generous and gracious God whose love for us sees no bounds. God's love and mercy extends to those who have labored their lives and to all those who turn to Him in the last minute. God welcomed everyone who is open to His gracious gifts. God's generosity is best manifested in the celebration of the Eucharist. In the Eucharist we are nourished by the body and blood of Christ. In the Eucharist we are invited to receive Him in faith. In the Eucharist we are all drawn together to become one body. And in the Eucharist we are called to follow Him and offer to Him our everyday activities. And unlike the first vineyard workers who complained to the owners, we should instead give thanks and praise him of his generosity.